Never have I not wanted to make a video this much in my life. Oh, here goes everything. I really don't want to do this, man. I've been procrastinating. I've been putting it off, but I just want to get this over with so it's done. Just something in the past. Just, oh my fucking god. Alright, here we go. Reacting to maybe the worst video ever.
Hey, statists, we've got some questions.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Actually, I just want to unpause it because you can still see like the mouth, like the past tense, no, future tense, or I don't know. It's weird how the animation works. Anyway, so, oh god. So I remember this video from like years ago. Like I don't even know how many years, 9 years, 10 years, something like that. And it was like a video made by a bunch of capitalists and like other ideological people. If capitalists can even be said to exist as an ideology. Wait, one second. I just want to check if I fucking. Nope, I'm not editing this out. I do not give a fuck. I'm that lazy, yes. I have no shame. So it was like a question towards people who are not their ideology. But obviously we come to the first fucking problem, right? Like, what ideology do these people believe in? What ideology? No one knows. At first, it would be, you would assume something like, okay, libertarianism and statism, right? So there's libertarians and then there's statists. But this makes no sense. What the fuck does the term libertarian mean? Libertarianism is a form of socialism, right? Like it's a form of socialism that's different from, say, Marxism, Leninism. Marxism, Leninism posits that the state should control the means of production for a temporary period of time until the workers later get them, right? Until the state just gives them randomly for some reason, who knows why, the means of production, even though it makes no sense why they didn't just begin with them. But anyway. But libertarian socialism, of course, is any form of socialism that just gives the workers the equipment, and that's it, you know. Whether or not it's in a state society, state government society. So when capitalists use the term libertarian, not only do I have no idea what they mean, but they have no idea what they mean. And I can't have any idea what they mean because they themselves don't have any idea what they mean. What's the definition? There is none. Now, I know that not all words need a definition to be valid, right? You know, fascism has no definition, but it still is an ideology, right? You know, it's the same with like romantic love, the term romance, right? You know, what is that? There's no definition for it, but obviously couples exist. You know, marriages exist, spouses exist. So clearly it has an impact in our society. But what doesn't have any impact is this term libertarianism. What the fuck does that mean? I don't even have it. No one has a grasp of it. You know what? People who use it, they're often free market, or they think they're free market anyway. They're capitalists, right? Who are sometimes against paternalism or like socially conservative laws, but sometimes not. And there's no real dispute. Even I guess you're just a libertarian if you call yourself one, and you happen to support capitalism. So, whatever the fuck it even means to support capitalism, what does it mean? That you're in favor of people working for bosses as opposed to themselves? That, you know, the means of production should be privately owned so people are never self-employed and they work for other people because one person having all the wealth is good, even if it impoverishes everyone else? That it doesn't make any sense. No one, you're not going to go on Reddit, right? You know, type on Reddit, you know, go on Reddit or like go on Twitter, Tumblr, whatever. You just go on like any site and you're going to find someone who's like, you know what? I really don't like working for myself. You know, I have my computer in my room. I was thinking this computer should actually be in an office and there should be a capitalist who dictates how I use it constantly for doing my, well, it used to be freelance work, but now I just want to work for them instead and had them dictate what I do. And then, you know, also take my money, you know, everything I produce of any value, whatever products that sell, most of it, the vast majority of its value, its money generated should go to my boss, my employer instead. Like, you won't find anyone advocating that because that literally sounds like that person's mentally ill or in a cult or both. That's a full-blown psychological disorder. That's fucking insane. So neither capitalism nor libertarianism, that being libertarianism, the term outside of referring to a form of socialism, you know, what it actually is, has any meaning, has any actual advocates. So this is already bad shit insane. The whole video, the whole premise of the video, if we even said it has a premise at all, is insane. Questions libertarian, who knows what the fuck that means, have for statists. People who believe in a state. So like every person in existence, minus like anarcho-primitivists, minus hunter-gatherers. But even then, hunter-gatherers aren't against a state. They just choose not to live under one. And a lot of the time they don't choose because they're just stranded in some forest and they don't even know that civilization exists. Imagine living your whole life. You're just a part of some indigenous tribe in, I don't know, the Brazilian Amazon. And you never come into contact with human civilization. Or you do briefly, very briefly, but you don't really understand it, right? You know, they seem like a wild tribe to you, just like any other actual hunter-gatherer tribe. So you don't really have much of a perspective. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that no one is actually pro-anarchism. No one advocates for it. Even primitivists do not advocate for primitivism. They just live the hunter-gatherer lifestyle because that's what they've always lived. That's how they've been born. They just can't adopt anything different. And that's okay. You know, different folks, different strokes, different lifestyles. I'm a panarchist after all. But, yeah. So, I guess I don't even know what the fuck this video is. Even though I've watched it twice now. I actually watched it in preparation. Well, I watched it like a few weeks back. But still, I watched it in preparation for making this video. Which is exactly why I don't want to make this video. Just remembering how awful it is. I don't have a perfect memory. It's only been, you know, it's been a few weeks, but I have a rough idea of what's going to happen, so. What is this music? What the fuck? I don't think that's very appropriate. I don't think it's really in tune. I guess it's just setting the stage for how awful this video is going to be. It's trying way too hard to be epic. Jesus, dude. Holy God.
If a kid couldn't afford lunch because the school bullies kept taking a percentage of his allowance, you wouldn't blame the kid's parents for not giving him enough.
That's correct. I mean, obviously it would be the bully, but it would also be the bully's parents, right? I mean, obviously we're not going to go after a kid. That's gross, right? We're obviously going to go after the parents for allowing this to happen. Or, even better, the school board, the authority, right? Who just allow this theft to keep occurring with absolutely no punishment for the child. Like, obviously, right? And that's also, of course, an example of a state, right? Although in a very limited idea. Obviously, in our society, in every society that exists ever, there's this thing called, you know, the police, right? But on a low scale, right? That is the scale of the schoolyard, you know, limited to where the children play, where they learn. Well, if you can call that learning, but, you know, where all the school is, like the physical building, right? The, you know, institute. It's like if they actually act at all, the teachers and the principals and the people who work in the school, they kind of act as the policing group, right? You know, a police force within a tiny area. The facility limited to a few thousand square feet, maybe a few tens of thousands, right? Depending on the school size. You know, it's like, well, that's a state. And that's okay, because that should be a state. Children should be regulated in their behavior. There should be punishment. There should be paternalism, obviously. And if you can understand why that would occur for children, you can understand why that would occur for adults. Just that, of course, the police force, or actually call it a police force, when it comes to apprehending and punishing adults, including for self-destructive behaviors, because those still hurt people, even if it is just the perpetrator. So anyway, though, but getting off of that, right, it's like, that's a state, right? You know, I mean, you know, the teachers, whoever, the people who are the school administration, or the whole school board, they are regulating the kids, because their parents out there, and obviously the police aren't going to step in. These are just kids, right? It's not that serious. But serious enough to warrant some extent of authority. So obviously this is statism, and it's okay. This is a perfect example of statism, right? It could be public administration, private administration, but these capitalists in these videos, in this video, I mean, they support the same thing. Whether it's a public school or a private school, they believe that authority is justified in this situation, which it is. But you can't say that anarcho-capitalism, or whatever ideology you want to call it, whatever it is you want to describe your own belief system as, right, is only against, you know, public authority, the public sector, right, what the government does. I mean, yes, I'll admit they're okay with, like, private sector authority, private companies having authority over people and ruling people. They're fine with that. But I don't even think even that's just true. I think they're okay with all of it, all the authority. Because, of course, you're okay with teachers, principals, any kind of security that's at a public school stepping in to prevent bad behavior from kids, even if it's not harming another kid. Even if it's just self-destructive behavior, right? Like, duh, dude. You know, so anyway, I'm just saying, if they're, like, private property absolutists in their mind, they're not in actuality. Because that's not done by a private company. Anyway, moving on, though.
So why is it that when people struggle financially, you blame the employer who provides them with money and not the government, which is taxing them?
Well, actually, you know, there's a way for it to be both. You can blame both, 100%. Because, of course, the capitalist isn't actually giving them money, because the capitalist doesn't work. The money comes from the work. The worker performs the work, and then the capitalist, in extracting what they do, what the worker does, their employee, the value they create, they then give a tiny percent of it back to the employee. And if they have like 10 employees, 20, 30, right? What implies this capitalist has so much capital, has such an investment into their business that they're running costs of the industry of that much. Firstly, the whole point of socialism is that everyone owns the business, right? So dependent upon how much one wants to contribute and get back in their future, they see themselves in their financial future and their investment, then they can invest into the company too, if they expect that they'll get something back. So let's say initially they're making, I don't know, like $20, 20 USD an hour from the work. I don't know what it is. It could be any job. It could be a cafe. It could be a warehouse. It could be anything. And then later, right, the means of production are getting more advanced because they own the business and they're reinvesting into it to make it bigger and brighter and attract more customers and yada, 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 and just make their productivity better because they'll have better technology. Now they're making $30 an hour. They'll have to look at the math, right? Is investing this amount of money into the business worth it to get that return, to get that profit, to make more money? If it is, we'll do that. If it's not, we will not. That's the point. That's the point of democracy and collective decision making. Economic democracy, if you will. The capitalist does not know this. The capitalist does not understand this. And the point is that it's not about risk or anything like that. Maybe a capitalist's business will go bankrupt and everything will fail and it'll be horrible for their employees and horrible for them, yada yada. It's their fault. And the same, like, vice versa. If it becomes successful, maybe the employees could have some of that money, perhaps. But yeah, basically the point is that the capitalist is stealing the vast majority of what the worker creates, arguably all because the worker didn't give any consent. And if your whole argument is, okay, but the capitalist, the employer owns the business, they invest into it. They shouldn't. What is their point of investing in? To get money and steal it from other people? So it's entirely malicious. And if your point is, well, they just want to invest to make more money. From who? From whose labor? Exactly. It only makes sense to talk about the necessity of investing and upgrading a business and making it bigger to make more money if it is worker-owned and worker-directed. And the workers, yeah, they could invest into the business and get something out of it. They lose some money initially, but they're expecting a bigger return. What that money will bring them. That's what all investing is. That's what putting money into the stock market is. That's what investing into cryptocurrency, buying a certain coin, expecting its value to rise or go down if you're doing a short trade. That's the point. That's what investing is. And imagine this. This is a perfect example, actually. Imagine this scenario. You have like a stock market company, right? It's basically a company that's selling and buying shares, right? Or like a publicly traded company, or just a parent company, something that's really exists only because of other companies in relation to it, right? And it's got like 1,000 stockbrokers working, one capitalist employing 1,000 stockbrokers or whatever. And basically, they're trading stocks, right? But any money they make from trading stocks, they have to give to the capitalist, with the exception of maybe they'll keep 10% or 20% if they're lucky. Something like that. You understand what the work that they do, they could just do from their fucking home, from their fucking, in front of their goddamn couch, on their chair, comfy, alone, not in the presence of a bunch of assholes, not in some, I was going to say cubicle, but a cubicle would be pretty nice nowadays. You don't see too many of them. Like, you get what I'm trying to say. Like, the means of production are things people commonly own, their own computer. Now, you could say maybe, okay, but then they should just do that. Which I agree, they should just trade stocks on their own. They should absolutely do it. And they shouldn't be too mad at something that they can control, you know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, it's not that free, and a lot of the time, these people who get these kind of jobs are expecting the pay, not necessarily of just the stocks they make, but the pay of just trying to make stocks because they don't have too much confidence in their own financial strategy. You see the whole problem there. But you might say, well, okay, but the capitalist is still giving them money, right? They're still giving them money, right? Yeah, but money that they take from them. This is like a landlord, right? You might say a landlord sometimes fixes things. They don't really. They get other people to do it. But the point is sometimes they spend some money to get some things fixed when it comes to a house or apartment that is being leased. But to do that, to pay for these things, they have to take that money first from the tenant, from the multiple tenants most of the time. That could be an immense amount of money. So it's not like they're actually doing anything. They're just stealing from you and then giving a tiny bit back. I guess that's the illusion of charity. It's like when Jeff Bezos donates to charity. Oh, what a kind soul. Oh, he's a fucking philanthropist. No, he's a piece of shit.
For fans
And I should also, geez, sometimes it glitches a little bit like that. This is the LCD Meteor player, but
of
it is what it is. But anyway, coming back to like the former video of Seamus, right? It's like, yeah, taxation is also theft. Like both things can be true simultaneously, you idiot. Dude, what are you doing? Like taxation is theft. I didn't give you your consent to take my money. Exactly, it's theft. And it's likewise the same with like capitalist extraction, right? For an employer to take any amount of money from you, to make any money when they're not doing the work themselves. Do the work yourself. Your company should not be owned by you. It should be owned by everyone who works in it. So everyone, I don't care if there's 2 people in that company, 200, 2,000, 20,000, whatever. Like, damn, like how, like 2 of these things are very obvious, right? I did not give you consent to take my labor for work that I did, and I did not give you consent to take my money to afford someone else's lifestyle, which is what taxation is. So, in other words, it's both, dude. You can blame both. It's not one way or the other exclusively. Anyways, the next guy, Lock and Rose, okay.
democracy, I would ask,
All right, he's saying, like, to fans of so-called democracy, okay. He's putting, like, democracy in quotation marks. I'm not really sure what he's talking about.
is it okay to forcibly rob, control, or otherwise victimize somebody as long as the majority approves of it?
Definitely not. And you might get some insane people, truly insane, who are temporary legal positivists. That's what I like to call them. Temporary legal positivists, in the sense that they don't actually believe that the law is what makes something just, but they'll just arbitrarily use this terrible non-justification as a way of like trying to sell an idea, right? Or try and justify something in their mind. It obviously makes no sense. It's like people who this is a really dark example. It's like child rapists or people who want to rape children. It's like sexual predators in general, right? They'll cite an underage age of consent in a country, right? They'll take a look at countries where, well, really every country where it's legal to rape children. 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and they'll be like, well, the law says it's okay. They say you can engage in sexual acts with these kids, and it shouldn't be legal at all. It shouldn't be. And these people in general do not believe that the law dictates what's right and what's not right. Because by the very standard, it would be perfectly fine to advocate for the age of consent to be risen, as it should be, right? Because that would make it legal. So what's the problem with that? Exactly, right? It's, legal positivism as an ideology is self-refuting. That's why no one actually has it as an ideology. They don't really adhere to it. But they will temporarily use this excuse to kind of, very much downplay their horrific actions. Even something as horrific as sexual violence. Absolutely. And so it's the same thing with people who advocate democracy. Some people anyway. They don't actually believe that because the majority say a thing is right and thus vote it into law, that must mean it must be right. That doesn't make any sense. No. Especially as people's minds change and their actions change and, etc. They're just saying this because, and sometimes they might be honest, like I'll be honest, right? Democracy is good insofar as it gets what I want, right? If most people vote for the thing that I want, then that voting is good. I'm glad that bill was passed, right? If most people, on the contrary, though, in some other scenario, vote against what I want and vote for the wrong thing, then democracy in that instance is bad. Although, for what it's worth, the United States, nor any country in the world, actually has democracy, doesn't have democracy. We don't vote on policies. We vote on politicians. So it's not really democracy, is it? But in the rare instance where an individual law, bill, or practice is passed, like something is now legal or illegal, or we're doing something different, something's going to be passed, right? Some kind of act, right? Then it would just depend on the context. Now, would I support direct democracy in general? I would say yes, given my current political beliefs, because I would assume, in America at least, most people would, in general, vote for what I believe to be right. A lot of the time, they would vote for the wrong thing, and there'd be detriments, there'd be downsides, there'd be some bad stuff that would occur because of that. The thing itself, right? Them voting for something wrong, unless something wrong being allowed to exist, or something right not being allowed to exist. You get what I'm saying, right? Correct criminalization or incorrect, decriminalization. But what I will say is that overall, if it's a net positive, if it benefits me the most, then I will vote it in. Absolutely. I'm not a legal positivist about it. I don't believe that because most people agree with it or acted on it, thus it's okay. Absolutely not. That makes no sense. That's self-refuting. Of course not. But if democracy benefits me the most and does what's right and what's moral and what makes it more justified and sane and stable society, then I'm all for it. So I do believe in direct democracy for any society, really, except, that is to say, a panarchist one, or at least an ideal panarchist one, right? Because in panarchy, dictatorship would be the norm. The whole point of panarchy is that there's different societies for different people. And that means drastically different laws and different political beliefs of the people. And thus, a dictator would be necessary, an autocracy would be necessary to sustain that long term for dozens to hundreds to even thousands of years. If you had direct democracy, people could just vote away, completely destroy what makes a panarchist society unique, an individual microstate. All its uniqueness and what makes it good and distinguished from the rest of the world would be gone. If people don't like the society they're in, then they can just leave. That's the whole point of panarchy. They can go to some different panarchist society that has different laws, and those laws that they want will always remain intact because there is a dictatorship keeping it intact. In fact, there could even be some kind of constitution that says you can only abandon the society, but you can never internally change it. The laws will never change. The Constitution is forever. This is also why I very much support the American Constitution, right? Because even though I don't I don't agree with the Second Amendment, I'm not a firearms fan at all. I support banning them fully. The point is, overall, I'd say it's a net positive, right? If I had the option between getting rid of the Constitution or keeping it, I would keep it. I like that it always is going to keep something intact about America. I like that. I love that, in fact. That's what makes America beautiful. It's just a shame that this orange bastard in office is trying to repeal it, including the 14th Amendment. So that's a shame.
We all know that every economic...
Oh, wow, that guy T. So this is very smart guy, surrounded by a bunch of lunatics. It is a shame, though, that his whole thing is centers around supporting capitalism and free markets and private property. He's a smart guy who follows a bad ideology, right? That can happen sometimes. I mean, I've always been a smart guy myself, and I've believed in a lot of things, right? I've believed in most things that a person can believe in, changed my mind, and then gone back and forth, and like all these weird experimental ideologies. I totally know, dude. I totally know. I'm no stranger to that. So I do have a little bit of not even sympathy, empathy for that guy T. I do understand, what he's gone through and all that. I don't know what he believes in currently because this is an eternity ago, right? I think he may work for the Mises Institute. Mises, is that what it's called? I think it's Mises Institute. So I think he's still kind of on that free market wagon, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
system has market failures. Capitalism, socialism, communism, whatever.
Well, there's no market in communism, but I get what he's saying. Yes, every country and every economy and every market structure is going to have failures, right? I'm gonna guess I can't remember this perfectly. I think he's gonna say it has upsides. I'm not sure.
But my question is, why do you feel morally justified in forcing other people to subsidize these failures?
If you mean taxation, that again, this is really vague, right? Like, I don't know why you phrase it the way. Why do you think it's moral for other people to force people to subsidize these failures? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm gonna guess taxation, but this is so ambiguous. Does he say more?
Why should I be forced to subsidize failed electric car companies like Fisker or failed government initiatives like Obamacare?
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. So that's my opinion.
Shouldn't I have the right to decide what risk I want to take with my own money?
That kind of just seems like more of a problem with the free market, unless he's talking about taxation, that is. In which case, sure, that you shouldn't be forced to subsidize things you do not consent to subsidize. That's pretty messed up. So yeah. I guess I don't disagree with him, but it's just like, I don't know who he's talking to. Like, who's that question really aimed at, right? I have no idea. And statists is way too vague of a term, dude.
You want to ban things that you don't like? As long as they're not hurting other people, what's the big deal?
Jeez, I mean, that's a big philosophical question. You shouldn't dismiss that kind of question and inquiry and criticism so, vapidly. Jesus Christ. There's a lot of reasons, dude. I mean, even the average, I guess you could say she's asking the question. It's just a question, right? Like, I get it, but it's so unimaginative. Like, there's no possible, she's like, how could you believe that? Implying you don't know yourself. Like, if your whole ideology revolves around being against paternalism, anti-paternalism, you should know what paternalists believe and why they believe it. Like, Jesus, dude. I mean, well, I guess that's the thing. Like, capitalists don't know what socialism is. That's why they're against it, right? And it's also like, it's like with a lot of leftists, they think they're anti-fascism. We're against fascism, but they don't know what that term means. They don't have any definition of the term. Not that there is a definition, but they believe there is, and then they don't have one, which is hilarious. Wrong in the worst possible ways. Like, they've probably never even heard of Giovanni Gentili, and they've definitely never read any of his work, because if they have, like, anything, any book he's ever written, then they would realize how absurd it is that they're just flying this term around, Like, what is fascism? Are we really against the philosophy of Giovanni Gentili? I don't think you are. I'm not against it. I'm not for it, you know what I mean? I wouldn't go around saying I'm anti-fascism, but I don't agree with fascism, right? I'm a Muslim, so I believe in an entirely different form of idealism, right? But also, even just the kind of structures, the authoritarianism of fascism, the collectivism, the specific kind of, like all that stuff. I'm open borders, dude. So what can I really say, But anyway, so that's what I'm not going to get into it now. I don't really need to get into it, but you can probably understand my whole perspective anyway. My point is, you should just understand this stuff. But okay, you might be saying I'm not really answering her question, right? I'm not really answering her question. Like, how am I supposed to answer that? Like the whole philosophy of paternalism or being against? Like, here's the thing: we don't live under panicky. We don't have access to any kind of society ever, right? And of course, I've already made a good video on why paternalism is good. Absolutely. But like, I support only voluntary paternalism, right? If you have access to any kind of society you want, that means access to any kind of laws you want to live under. Completely justified. So you can't complain that, something is banned, like alcohol is banned or cigarettes are banned or whatever, when you can just go to a society where these things are unbanned. You understand? So that's what I mean by paternalism. Because there's something in that society while they're staying there. They love it. And they're sacrificing the things that they otherwise would be able to get, but they can't in this society. That's voluntary to me, dude. And it's good because it keeps people away from sin without destroying their liberty, without destroying their individualism. The fact that they're living in that society is a reflection of themselves, their own decision, their choice, their consent. And that's great, So absolutely, I mean, geez, who wouldn't want to live that? That's what I mean by the end of history is a panarchist one. It doesn't look like just one society that's meant for everyone, even though, yeah, eventually we'll get to, there'll be certain tendencies, right? Universal preferences. Undoubtedly, that's the whole point of panarchy anyway, to find the best societies by seeing all the ones that will fail. So we'll end up in a bit more, the hegemonic sort of society, right? There'll definitely be more coherence, right? Consistency. But it won't be one society. There's not going to be just one set of laws for every single person. There's always going to be experimentation and variety and diversity of thought and yada yada. So that's my answer.
Status of the...
Holy shit, I forgot about this, dude. Yeah, I remember. They got a fucking economist. They got Jeffrey Kopp. They got this fucking Austrian school of economics economist in this fucking video, in this otherwise ridiculous, unprofessional mess. Dude, what are you doing? You're hurting your career. Well, what career, really, right? Here's the thing. This dude, he's articulate. He knows how to write. And he's again, just like that guy T, he's an example of a smart dude who came to a terrible ideology and who was surrounded by complete fucking morons. Oh, man.
Left, who are always talking about how government's going to help the poor and demarginalize marginalized groups. I don't understand this. From the ancient world through the Middle Ages all the way up to modern times, governments have largely conspired against the poor. I'm thinking of...
Yeah, I know. That's what capitalism is, dude. That's what capitalism is. Open your eyes, dude.
In particular, a century ago with eugenics programs and segregation programs and zoning programs, business regulation and union rules, everything was designed to exclude, marginalize, and impoverish groups that didn't have power. Governments are always controlled by rich people. That's just the way it works. Why do you think the government is the right means to help the poor? It makes no sense to me.
So I punched this commie face in and said, "How do you like those marks?" Oh, we're recording. Does my hair look okay?
I wish we weren't recording, honestly. This is way more painful for me than it is you. I'm honestly wondering how long this video is going to last. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it in one take. I really don't think I will be. I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked at myself if I could do this in one take. This is emotionally taxing.
How can you claim on one hand to be anti-guns, yet on the other hand, you want the state to take guns?
Dude, if you call yourself Big Dicko, you gotta show it. You know, I mean, you gotta prove it, right? You know that old internet expression, pics or it didn't happen? Exactly, dude, you gotta prove it. You can't just hide behind some shitty book. Come on, man.
Away at gunpoint. Pew pew.
Why? Wait, did he say he wants guns taken away at gunpoint? I wasn't even paying attention. What the fuck? Go back, wait.
How can you claim on one hand to be anti-guns, yet on the other hand, you want the state to take guns away at gunpoint?
Right, yeah, I get it, at gunpoint. Because they already have guns, right? I mean, what's a police force gonna fucking do without guns? Trying to confiscate guns from people, they're just gonna die, right? That's how you get the that's how you get the revolution. Obviously, if they have guns, then you're gonna have to confiscate them using guns. How unsurprisingly. Also, the police should have guns. Everyone else should not, which is like a very normal perspective anyway. If we didn't have a gun situation, right? Like no one had guns, right? Imagine we're in like the 1400s or whatever, right? You know, it's like, you know, imagine even further back, like we're in ancient China, whatever. The government went around and they sent out all the squads, you know, the ancient police to confiscate people's katanas, right? They would obviously do it with katanas because they brought like a tiny kitchen knife. They don't have that range. They're probably going to get their head cut off, right? So obviously they're going to use weapons that are appropriate to confiscate weapons that are inappropriate. Fucking idiot.
Point. Pew pew.
I remember this guy. This guy reacted to my like Twitter rampage. I asked him about if he had that video, and apparently he replied he didn't. Yeah, I said some true things on Twitter, but I also said some disgusting things, like on that time, like when I was known as Visionary Oaks. Children cannot ever, not under any circumstances, consent to anything sexual with anyone. So, like that tweet, sadly though, is taken out of context. There's a lot of context as to why I thought otherwise. But sadly, the people criticizing me for that horrible take, totally untrue take, actually do believe that children can consent horrifically. So, the worst people to criticize me in the world. I had to learn everything by myself. I was offered no help to change my mind by these people. I had to figure it out on my own. So, but yeah, there was also, of course, the chattel slavery take, which was true. But, you know, I shouldn't have said it, right? Like, try and keep my little career. Even though I would have absolutely gotten canceled for something else, I would have dozens of times over. I even fantasized about it to this day. Just saying some, like, fucking out of left field shit. That the Jews are behind capitalism. Or, like, some shit like that. I don't know. Jokingly, but, you know, still. That even jokes will get you canceled, so, you know.
Government has slaughtered 250 million of...
Yeah, no shit. But you're not against it, are you? You want the state. You want private police. You want a private military. You want, you know, yada yada. Anyway, the only way to get rid of the state is to become a hunter-gatherer. And I don't see you, you know, walking into the wilderness. Neither am I. But I'm just saying.
Of its own people in acts of democide. How can you trust such a beast to rule over you? And as some of you argue for, to be disarmed to.
Why is it that no matter how much money the government takes from its citizens, it's always broke?
That is actually a funny point to make. But anyway, I don't really know how to react to that. Who's supposed to say anything? Do I support taxation? Do I support the government being in so much debt? No. I don't really know. Like, what kind of question is that? I think a lot of these things are framed as questions, but they're actually just, like, rhetorical. Yeah, they're entirely rhetorical. Like, they're not really meant to be answered. It feels more like they're talking at me than talking to me, or talking at someone. I'm not even sure if these questions are meant for me. I have no clue, man.
100% of someone else's income is slavery? Then at what percentage is it no longer slavery?
Well, yeah, you're right, and this is why capitalism is slavery. But yeah, I mean, taxation. Like here's the thing. He's saying like, okay, well, if someone truly believes that taking all the money from someone, right, you know, for work that they do, robbing them from that work, it's slavery. Then, like, obviously that, you know, this is a terrible definition because it means that slavery is such a spectrum that anyone can be said to be enslaved, right? Like, this dude, like, are you saying that taxation is slavery? Even though taxation isn't forcing you to work and it's only taking money after you've worked. Weird statement, but Anyway, though, I don't really know how to respond to this. All I can say is that anyone who defines slavery that way by either taking someone's, like, a certain percentage of someone's money or, like, taking it only after they worked or whatever, that's the definition of slavery, then they're wrong. That's not the definition of slavery. Definition of slavery is being forced to work for another person or other people, regardless of how much they take from you, if anything at all. So that's all I gotta say.
Can a bunch of people who don't have the right to do a certain thing grant to somebody else the right to do it? And if not, how did Congress acquire the right to do things that you and I don't have the right to do?
That's perfectly fine. Actually, that's actually a reasonable question. This is the second time he's getting at legal positivism and the problems with legal positivism. Of course, in the initial question he asked, he did not understand why people believe in democracy if they do. He did not understand the narrative of it. But I guess it's a question. I guess maybe he's trying to understand it, even though I think the answer is very obvious. But anyway. But here, like, it's totally fine. Like, in order to have authority in the first place, someone without authority needs to give themselves authority or someone else authority. And of course, that's the whole problem with legal positivism, isn't it? Right? If you believe that something is justified simply because it is legal, legally classified a certain way, then ask yourself, what about before there was any government at all, right? Any Congress, any parliament? What about before then, right? How did these people legitimately get authority? What if I say I'm the king? What if I say it's now a monarchy? What if someone has a spouse and they say they're the king and the queen, right? Who's going to tell them no? Why is their authority less impactful and not considered legitimate when the organizers of a state, the people who first invented a government, were just the same way? Initially powerless and then just arbitrarily declaring themselves the king and queen. Exactly, dude, you know. That's literally how it went anyway. It's so fucking ridiculous. So that is a fair enough question.
Why are you comfortable spending borrowed money knowing your children will have to pay it off down the line?
Is this debt slavery? What?
You're increasing their eventual taxes before they can even vote.
Maybe this is totally about something I don't understand. So my apology if I don't understand it. Maybe it's a perfectly reasonable question, but I'm not sure. Literally, it sounds like you're describing debt slavery. Very common in India, but not very common in America. So, yeah, I don't really know how to respond. I have no idea how to respond to this.
Isn't that the definition of taxation without representation?
I have no idea. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, well, I can tell by the blur it's not very big. Yeah, that does not extend much. Even if we're being, like, very generous and assuming it's flaccid, it doesn't reach below the, like, you know, the in between the legs. Like, yeah. And I can see, like, you can see here, you can see, like, how there's, like, a little darkness. That appears to be under 3 inches. I'm going to guess it's considered relatively or moderately small. It does, like, it should extend at least, like, okay, maybe you could say it's the angle, right? All right, if it begins here, maybe it's like, no, but then it ends here. Like, it literally, like, that is small. Like, either that or he did the blur wrong. Like, typically you'd think if he's going to censor his own dick, he's going to do it in a way that, like, you know, narcissistically makes it look bigger. But it's, like, dude, there's no way that's 1 inch. I don't believe that, but it's certainly under 3 inches.
Greedy and selfish that we need governments to steal from the rich and give to the poor and needy, then why do over 1.5 million charities exist globally?
Well, because charities don't really do shit. They usually just steal. And when they do shit, it's actually very temporarily. It's actually as a means of not making an impact. If there is a good charity that makes a good impact, then yeah, people might want to give to that, and maybe they do. But most charities are interested in making money for themselves and taking the profit. So if they were to cure a problem, right, it could be hunger, dehydration, you know, people who need malaria vaccines, etc. You can name anything, really, right? Then if they cure that problem, then the charity would cease to exist. You get what I'm saying? Unless, I can't look at this, dude. I can't. It's so small. Oh my God. Jesus. That is not a pleasant, you know, I don't want to see that dude naked anyway. God, what the fuck? Why would you do this? Like, why would you intentionally degrade yourself on camera? My God. Ugh. I guess that could be better asked to OnlyFans workers, but anyway, I don't care for that question. Listen, so I'm sorry you even had to see that. Holy fuck, I'm sorry. I don't control this piece of shit video I'm responding to. What was his question? Sorry, I was distracted by his tiny dick. Actually, what was the question? Oh yeah, what give to charity? Yeah. So the charity question is like, if they solved a problem, they would be. It's like a therapist, right? If they solved everyone's problems on the first day of therapy, just like that, right? Like all their mental problems, they'd be out of a job, right? They wouldn't have any job left to do. Obviously, they would have nothing. Like they would have literally nothing. So it's the same with charity, and all these charities, no matter the quantity, you need to focus on the quality. There's virtually none who do it right. Like when the government like taxes people to give money, even though the taxation is totally theft, it's unjust, right? The point is at least the money goes somewhere, right? Like at least it meets the thing. Sometimes wrongly, like supplying the military or like using the like drug squads, like using the police to fund unethical things and do unethical things, enforce unethical laws, etc. Right? There's a lot of like unethical. I'm really just scraping the bottom of the barrel, right? Heaps of unethical means that taxes goes to all the time, all the fucking time, right? You know, all the time. It's evil that couples, like married couples, are given tax breaks, but no one else. Evil, right? You know, like what the fuck? So it's totally unjust, totally not something I support. But yeah, like charity is a terrible means of doing anything. Because if charity were a good means, then these problems would already be solved. Consider how much money the rich have lying around they don't even use. And yet, none of these problems are solved. So, like, taxation has at least done way more for the cause than charities ever have. If anything, they really should just nationalize charities. Like, all of them. Literally all of them. So what they do can't be illegal. And they don't, like, completely break the law every second of every day. So that would be, like, decent. But if you ask me, okay, like, in a realm without taxation, how are we going to fix the problems? The thing is that the problems shouldn't exist in the first place, right? The problems should not exist. Not whatsoever. And there should always just be a standard of living that everyone can, like, have to prevent these horrible things from happening, like homelessness. Like, housing should be free. It shouldn't be paid for because there's nothing to pay for. The housing already exists, you know. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, you don't need to take any taxes or anything. As for other things, there is such a thing as universal basic income that doesn't necessarily have to come from taxes. You can just print money, and it won't go to inflation because, like, even though everyone's getting it equally, that doesn't mean that everyone has an equal amount of money. No, of course not. So that's not going to cause inflation as long as that condition is met, right? Let me get some fucking water. Oh my God. All right, where were we? Oh boy. Oh Jesus, dude, get your dick out of my face.
2015 alone.
Oh.
And that's not including the Clinton Foundation's money
Oh
laundering
God.
operation.
Oh, what the
Alleged
fuck?
money laundering
Dude,
operation.
just get on.
You do realize
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Oh, sorry, this woman again. Okay.
that making something illegal won't make it go away.
Yeah, but it almost entirely usually depletes it. I mean, imagine if murder were legal. Imagine if murder were legal. God, I can only fantasize. All right, go on.
Guns, drugs, the black market.
Okay, but there are countries which have successfully banned guns. Like Cambodia, for example. There are a bunch of other countries where, like, this is a near total gun ban. Almost no one in Japan owns a gun because they're not easy to get. So this isn't a hypothetical, like, we already know it works. Why would you take something that you know already, or I guess you don't know works? I mean, I don't know this woman. I don't know what she's thinking. So I've no idea if she even has the knowledge of things happening in the world. I have no idea. And as for like the drugs and stuff, like, yeah, I mean, you know, maybe like banning them doesn't work, sure. You know, current society, sure. But maybe you should, like, in anarchy, create a society where people don't have the incentive to take drugs, and drugs are extremely hard to find in the first place. Or some shit like that. I don't know.
It will provide.
Here's some of the money government wastes.
Free market will provide. I don't really know. It's like, well, you know, don't you want to legalize weed or something? Wouldn't that mean that the government would provide? Black markets are nothing to be proud of.
The government spent $1.4 million on an app that just simply points left and right for the TSA.
I'm surprised it's just you know, a measly 1.4 mil. So it can be a bit more, huh?
That should have been done for way cheaper. Oh, that's not crazy enough for you? How about this? The government wasted $1.4 trillion on a jet that doesn't even work.
I've never looked this up, but I'm just going to assume it's true. Absolutely. So how would you fix this problem? Get rid of the government? How are you going to have laws? The government is a law-making institution. What are the private police going to follow? What laws is the private military going to follow? Exactly. So the solution is not to get rid of the government, since you don't even believe that anyway, or even the public sector. Don't get rid of that either. The solution is just to make them not fucking idiots. Now, you might say, well, that's unrealistic. They're always going to be fucking idiots. Of course they are. But to the same extent, almost like these examples don't just keep happening. They don't become replicated. People sometimes learn from them, right? Not to say they always learn from their mistakes, because of course they have to register it as a mistake to begin with, right? But any, like, even moderately sane government knows, why would I spend this much money when I can get it done cheaper? Who would do that? Who would spend this much money on something that they have no incentive to, when they could just save that money? Exactly. It's not even done out of greed. It just makes no sense. It's just stupidity. So it's almost like it makes sense to just advocate for a non-horrible government, especially seeing that you believe in it anyway. So, yeah, just saying for everyone in this video, everyone in existence believes in some form of government, some form of statism. Unless you literally just want to go full hunter-gatherer, but unless you do that, I'm not going to take you seriously. Unless you're like, well, semi-hunter-gatherer. I mean, if you have a phone, like a smartphone, well, then again, how would you charge it, right? If you're in the woods of a smartphone making a video that's like polished, like one of the people here is like, oh, I'm in the fucking forest, I'm going to tell you, you statists, the problem with your ways. Like, well, that'd be actually funny. That'd be the most entertaining person there. But, like, you would have no electricity to charge the phone, so I don't think that can happen. But, okay, let's say you're a hunter-gatherer, right? You're in the forest. There's a tourist who's hiking in the mountains. You jump them. You kill them. You beat them to death with your bare hands. You gouge out their eyes. Then you smack their fucking face against the ground. They die, right? Their brains are all on the fucking ground, okay? You're a beast. You're a real beast, okay? You get the fucking laptop that they have in their backpack. They're in their hiking bag. And you get out the laptop. They don't have a password. You just go on. Just open it up. And then you're just like, okay, fuck, I gotta record this video. I gotta email it immediately. So you use, like, the inbuilt camera. And you're like, all right. So statists, right? You claim government is good, huh? Well, it's killing so many people, huh? Government? What has it ever done? It spent $1.4 trillion on a fucking fighter jet that doesn't work or some shit. It's worthless. It's fucking worthless. Government? Dude, I have everything I need. What do I need government for? Civilization, tall towers, a gym. Dude, I work out by running every day. I fucking use my hands. I lift weights. Real weights, like feral rocks and dead fucking cougars that I kill with my bare hands. I just lift them on top of my back. I just do cardio and I do deadlifts with a dead cougar's body and a dead jaguar and a dead tiger, a dead lion even, all at once. I just do the fucking lifts, up and down, fucking deadlifts with these fucking animals. I don't need no gym. Fuck you need government for, or private companies or any of this bullshit. It's all state, all just statism. Huh? The capitalist, statist society? Just go live in the wilderness. Be a real man. Faggot. I would take that. Well, first, that's immensely entertaining. But I would, hence why I made up the scenario. But I would take that person's advice and words very seriously. I wouldn't agree with it, but I would respect them in a strange, very strange, very surreal way. Like they actually did what they preached, or didn't even preach it. They just did it, and I respect that. I really do. So if you want to live in an actual anarchist society, which is to say no society at all, unless you count like a pack of 10 people roaming the wilderness to be a society, then absolutely go ahead, dude. Enjoy the fuck out of your life. I fully agree with that as a panarchist and as someone who's not a totalitarian piece of shit. So I agree with that. But anyway, so the point is, though, you might say, okay, but advocating for this change of government, it's never going to happen. The government is never going to, it's going to keep making the same mistakes. And yeah, sure. But we're always going to have a government, so it's pointless unless you want to live rogue. You want to live like you want to literally be a hunter-gatherer, right? But also, like, here's the thing. You say, like, people who are actually, well, no anarchists exist, but let's just say there are any anarchists who exist, right? Okay, somehow. Saying, like, okay, but that's never going to happen. Anarchy is more pragmatic. No, it's not. Anarchy, an anarchist revolution happening in America or any country in the world, even a microstate, is absolutely impossible. There's 0.0000000, maybe 1. Like 0.0001% chance at best, being really optimistic. Really just 0%. Effectively 0. It's never going to happen. It's never happened. It never will happen. So it's more realistic to try and get a better government, as governments are all different. They're not all the same. Even though, yes, too much the same. That's why I'm a panarchist. They're not literally all identical, though. I gotta admit that even as a panarchist. So that's just an insane statement. You're never going to have your ideal society. You're not even going to have anarcho-capitalism, which is the most unimaginative ideology ever. Like, that's barely much of a change from what we have now. You're not even going to have that, let alone a society without government, whatever the fuck you think that means, or whatever anyone fucking thinks that means. So, yeah. The only way you can make it happen is, again, go into the woods, become a hunter-gatherer, strive, prosper. I'm rooting for you. I'm all for it, but that's it. There's only two alternatives. What we have now and what we can advocate, hopefully making like a better society where the government doesn't spend this amount of money on a goddamn jet that doesn't do shit, or the wilderness, and that's it. So there you go.
That's enough to buy every homeless person in the United States a mansion.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it's a mansion. Probably not a mansion. Well, actually, I'm not sure about the math on this, but certainly housing, sure. Some kind of housing, yeah. Absolutely, right? This is an example of the government being very anti-proletarian, and probably this jet or whatever was funded by a private company, and it was using its taxes to benefit the private company. $1.4 trillion or something. You see this? We could have fixed the homeless epidemic like now. But yeah, the government is only obsessed with taking money from the poor to give to the wealthy. Kind of seems like we need the government not to do that. And that's what we should be advocating. We should be advocating for a proletarian state and one that actually cares about its people. And that's what hypothetical arguing always is, right? You may say it's unrealistic. The government would never do that. Okay? Well, the government would never do what you want it to do. You'll never get anarcho-capitalism. You'll never get whatever fucking ideology anyone's ever carrying. The whole point of online discussion or just offline discussion, just talking about what should be, is talking about what should be. It's inherently hypothetical. It's inherently theoretical. If we are talking about what we can do as opposed to what should be done, then we would just talk about self-improvement and self-responsibility, and we just sound like a bunch of conservatives, which I guess in this case isn't that bad. I do believe in self-responsibility. But then we'd either be talking about whether we should go into the woods and become hunter-gatherers or I don't know, we should eat more beef. I don't know. Chicken, maybe. I don't know. Like, we just talk about, like, personal improvement, doing this thing or that thing. So, yeah, that's what all discussion, political discussion is. It's hypothetical, dude. It's what should be done with society. Can we make that happen? No, absolutely not. Will it one day happen? Who knows? Something will happen. Who knows what kind of change it will be? Well, guess we'll just have to find out, Yeah, we'll really have to find out. But that's the same with you, dude. So if you're applying it to me like it's never going to happen, I can say the same thing to you. So yeah, this is a fallacy people make all the time. It's just so ridiculous, lack of self-awareness.
Mansion. A $600,000 home. Oh, that's not crazy enough for you. The government lost
I'm not sure if it's 600,000, but anyway, go on.
$6 trillion. Knowing all of this, do you still think the government can spend your money more wisely than you?
In this context, yeah. Like, this is literally just an anti-taxation rant. Like, you're using all this weird terminology to about all these seemingly big concepts, but really it's just taxation. It's just like, a lot of taxation goes towards funding pointless things that is completely worthless. Like, yeah, I'm against taxation. No shit. Like no shit, Like, this is not a radical idea, just being against taxation. And, like, there are certain countries in the world with no income tax at all, right? So this would already apply in a sense. I know they can't just move there, obviously, because citizenship, right? This is another reason I'm open borders, right? Let people live how they want. And also because of language barriers. But this is also why I'm in favor of one universal language, the English language. Not to say that different languages can exist, they can. But you know what I'm saying. It's like everyone should speak at least one language in common. I think English would be ideal. Anyway, though, yeah, I don't really know what to say. But, like, it's just, like, taxation. Like, the government spends worse than we do. Like, no shit. Like, you should just open with that asshole. Like, my God. But, yeah, it's like, I could say the same to you. It's like, it's never going to happen. The government's always going to be doing this. It's never going to stop having taxes. Yeah, that's true. So he still believes in a government of some kind. Really just a government, right? Law-making institution for private police to follow and so on. And, like I just say, well, they'll always tax you no matter what. So what are you going to do? So, it's like, well, yeah, we should get rid of taxes because these things are fucking terrible. But let's just focus on that. It's like here's the thing. Like, anyone who supports taxation anyway, though, even if they believe in it, right? They don't believe it's theft, or they do believe it's theft, but it's like justified theft or whatever in their mind. They would be like, okay, but I don't support this one thing the government did. I want the government to use taxation to fund good things, which is perfectly reasonable take. I still don't agree with taxation. I still don't agree with it, but I get the sentiment. So how's this going to convince someone? They'll be like, well, like, this guy could be like, what's all taxation, the way it's currently done, or it's none. But like no, because every government does different taxation. Like you have to get these rare examples because of course not every government is like this. Like for fuck's sake. And it's totally a weird thing to even make an argument for. But even call this an argument. Someone would just be like, since all arguing is hypothetical anyway, okay, but maybe the government should just like not do that and just like spend taxes on good things. But it's like, yeah, it's a perfectly reasonable statement. That's what arguing is. That's what believing in an ideal society is. Everyone has an ideal society, meaning a society that doesn't currently exist, unless they're like a total liberal centralist, right wing centrist liberal. But yeah, so they could just say, I'm against this form of taxation because it doesn't go to anything good. Let's just have it go to somewhere good. So that's the only response I need to make. Holy fucking! I'm really like, I know I'm pausing this and I'm really giving in depth, but this is just how bad this video is. Just how bad that there's no real point. There's no points. Dude, I don't even know what to say, man. Oh god.
How can you rationalize basic philosophical concepts such as the non-aggression principle as being quote-unquote too difficult for society to be educated on and abide by, yet believe that hundreds of thousands of pages of federal and state regulations, clauses, case files, and amendments are somehow easier?
Well, is that Lawrence? No, maybe it's a joke. I don't know.
Case
Look alike her.
And amendments.
Okay, so
are somehow.
So that guy T, right? He's arguing here that like a vague, ambiguous philosophical principle is easier to follow than law and order. Like I don't know. Like he's trying to say like the government documents or the federal document. Dude, like no one reads this shit. Like what are you talking about? What is this? What's like again? Smart guy, dumb ideology. That's the problem here. I don't even know how to respond to this. It's so vague. What are you talking about? What are you asking? I don't get it. What are you asking? Like, what's the question, dude? All right, so maybe in his mind, he's trying to say like the non-aggression principle. Just don't harm other people. People won't harm you. You know, don't aggress upon people's freedom. End of story. Live and let live. Right? Okay, seems pretty good. And then he's just like, how is it hard to follow? People say it's hard to follow, but like, government documents are like, but no one's reading these government documents. What are you talking about? I don't even know what to say, man. I don't know.
How easier?
Is it illegal for me?
No way. What is she doing in here? What the fuck? What the fuck? I guess anyone really can call themselves a libertarian. Shit.
Me to import my hedgehogs to a multitude of places, but it's totally legal to import thousands.
Okay, so white supremacy. That's what I was thinking. Like, they're just allowing, like, white supremacist talking points in this video. I thought these people were, like, anti-paternalism, anti-government. What the fuck? Like, white nationalism, racism saying, oh, I can import my hedgehogs anywhere. But black people coming into a country where they have to live in the same... I have to live in the same city as black people? Like, yeah. Just as they have to live with you, sadly. What the fuck? How is this real? This has to be some kind of oversight. There had to be some editing oversight. They called the wrong person. They thought this was a different Lauren or a different Sovereign or something. I have no idea. How did this happen? What is this doing in here? Oh my gosh.
Become thousands of fighting-age economic migrants.
Because people should be allowed to live in whichever country they choose, and their race should not deter that. You disgusting racist piece of shit.
If it's wrong for you to do a certain thing, can you, by voting, make it right for someone else to do the...
You're right. This is of course like the same legal policy. All right, we'll just get out. I pretty much answered this already.
Exact same thing.
Little repetitive,
If
bud.
the competitive market ingenuity
God, that is an eye strain.
of capitalism can deliver us things like iPhones, 3D printers.
None of this was invented by capitalism. It was invented by workers. None of the capitalists invented these things themselves. Even the blueprints. I don't just mean the physical manufacturing, obviously, but like the blueprints weren't even really invented by these rich assholes. They were invented by everyone. Because all ideas, especially scientific inventions, are the derivative collective product of a society or a bunch of societies. People over dozens to hundreds to even thousands of years. No one person invented anything, really.
And
With some, very extremely rare exceptions, obviously. So someone could, I can cite an example. Okay, some rare, very rare exceptions, right? But they're not the norm. Not at all. And even these individuals who invented it by themselves, they actually did invent it by themselves from scratch. That means they didn't have a bunch of workers assemble it or create it for them. Thus, they're not stealing an idea. Thus, they're not even a capitalist. They don't even own a business. They're no CEO. Like the few people who actually did invent things from scratch, as rare as that is to begin with.
Private spaceships, why should services as important as justice, roads, and defense be monopolized by the state?
I mean, I guess it depends on the person you're asking, right? Like, they might have their own reasons. Just like you, for example. Someone could ask the question, why should these services be privatized? Why should these institutions be privatized? Exactly. It's just an economics debate, right? It's not like a philosophical one. It's not like something that can just be answered immediately. Like, how is someone even supposed to respond to that question? What are they supposed to respond with? Like, what the fuck? There are articles advocating the privatization of these things. There are articles advocating against it. There are articles advocating the nationalization of commonly privately owned services, privately provided services. The reverse. There's, like what? How is anyone supposed to respond? Like this sounds like a rhetorical question, but I don't know what point is being made. Because of course, a rhetorical question is accompanied by a point, right? It's a point. Like you're trying to mock the other person or like show a flaw in their way of thinking or argument, right? But I don't even understand that here. But it's not a legitimate question either. So I have no idea what this dude's intention is.
Right-wing statists. When you're opposing gun laws, you argue the government shouldn't be so powerful that it can disarm the populace. So why, when it comes to drug laws, do you argue the government should be so powerful that it can tell people what they can put into their own bodies?
But because they believe that people doing drugs is bad? What? I gotta watch this again. Oh, thank God we're not quite halfway, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Jesus. I thought honestly we're like only a fourth or like a fifth. Well, probably more like a fourth. I was thinking we were like a quarter of the way in, but it's not that bad so far, honestly. At least we're making some progress.
Roads and defense be
All
monopolized
right, let's just
by the state.
go back to watch that.
Right-wing statists.
Okay, so he's asking right-wing statists? So the people making this video? What the fuck? What? You're asking yourself this question? What? Is this like some kind of like reverse psychology thing? I don't understand. I have a feeling that like none of the people in this video even believe in the same thing, or very few do. What the fuck is happening? Someone explain. Someone explain what's going on. I have no idea.
When you're opposing gun
And neither do they. They have no idea either.
laws, you argue the government shouldn't be.
In fact, I would
you
argue
the
that
government-
I only have no idea. I would argue because they have no idea. Like, how am I supposed to understand them if they don't understand themselves? Thus, it's just proven that there's nothing to be understood.
shouldn't be so powerful that it can
Wait a minute, I just want to check. We are... Okay.
You argue the government shouldn't be so powerful that it can disarm the populace.
Right. So, right-wing statists believe that the government that the police shouldn't have guns? Or that the people should have guns? Okay, you know what? This is what I think he's trying to say. Horribly. He's phrasing this so poorly. For no reason. This is a really simple question anyway. He's like asking some people who are like, okay, I'm pro-gun, but I'm anti-drugs. Okay, that's what he's saying, right? How can you be pro-gun but anti-drugs? He's like, disarm the populace. People need to have guns. They need to own guns. Home ownership of guns. That guy. Okay, all right, that's what he's saying. So he's saying that people should have some liberty, right? That is the liberty to own guns. Okay, and then he's saying...
So why, when it comes to drug laws, do you argue the government should be so powerful that it can tell people what they can put into the...
Okay, because, like, in their view, guns are okay, but drugs are not. This doesn't apply to me, who's against both. Wait a minute. Actually, no, it does. It does apply to me. What am I talking about? Because I'm against gun... No, it doesn't apply to me. Because they're pro-gun, is what I meant to say. I think I said, I don't know, I don't even remember. They're pro-gun, anti-drugs, right? I'm against both, so... Jesus, what is this video?
Their own bodies.
Because, like, in the view of these people, they are in favor. They believe guns are good for society, and believe that drugs are bad. Obviously, drugs are bad. Who's disputing that? Like, even if you think drugs should be legal. And even if you want to take them yourself, like if you're just like they're good for you overall, they have a net positive effect on your health. Like you're delusional. No one even says that. Like that's just scientifically untrue. Like what are you arguing? Like they would say they would. What? What? Oh my god, that was crazy. That was like so cool. Like I was wondering, is that gonna ever happen to me? It's like, dude, that's what happens when you finally get your freedom and you get to do whatever you want. Like, whoa, God, I love living alone. Oh my god, it's so good. You need to actually do things. You know. Like that's, whoa, like that's certainly. Oh man. Oh god. Funny story. Funny story right there. Funny story. Oh my gosh. Someone just delivered me a package. Oh, it's just lying there. I just want to open it. I just want to like pick it up and oh my gosh. I had no idea about that buzzing sound. I was like, what the fuck was that? Was that someone else? Like, no, dude, that's what happens when someone's trying to deliver you a package. Like, oh shit, I never knew that's like how they get to your home and do that and like, oh god, it's beautiful. Oh, I want to open it, but I can't. I can't right now. I gotta do this bullshit. oh god, something good happened to me, and it happened at the worst time or the best time, depending on your perspective. I mean, I can see both perspectives, but like I was just fucking recording this video, and I was like recording this audio and stuff, and it's like it just happened. It just kind of like happened, I guess. Like it just kind of like just manifested. It's so weird like that. It's just like but I want to open it, but I gotta respond to these fucking idiots. I'm so preoccupied with it. All right, I'll open it later. Come on, it's just that's the whole point of this, I guess, just to get it over with. Just get it done with. Come on.
Now to status.
Yeah. So what was I even saying? This guy's like, oh yeah, people are pro-gun and they're anti-drug. What question are you asking? What are you even doing, dude? Just like the reverse, pro-drug, anti-gunner. I don't even know what to say.
So why, when it comes to drug laws, do you argue the government should be so powerful?
Because they're so different. Like drugs and guns are so different. Obviously, there's different reasoning for it. It's like, what? Are you in favor of legalizing everything or criminalizing everything? What are you doing? What the fuck is this? What is this video?
It can tell people what they can put into their own bodies.
Now to status of the.
Like this dude is so out of place here, or is he? I don't know. I'm just turning the volume down on this fucking video because I'm getting a fucking. I don't want to say earache, but certainly it's not nice on the ears.
Right. Claim you're opposed.
Status with the right.
And don't see.
Wait, we just used the term right-wing status before. What the?
Celebrating the cops, the first responders.
What? You support privatizing private cops? What are you talking about?
And the fire departments and the jails, war, all big public sector programs.
But they could be handled by the private sector, and war is often handled by the private sector, like the suppliers. You want you want like a private military, don't? Wait, is this guy? I don't understand. What the fuck is this dude on?
Socialism that you love. Why do you think
hierarchical public sector employment is not so? Again, like if he knew what socialism is, fuck. Like you want variety, right? You don't want one institution dominating an entire product line or industry. Yeah, well, variety is called socialism because there'd be dozens to hundreds of worker-owned businesses that would compete to deliver a fucking product as opposed to a capitalist monopoly or the state. Jesus.
But that's going to work better than the private sector.
Someone could ask, why would you think the private sector is going to work? But you just said you support the private sector undertaking all these things. What is the question? Dude, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. I don't...
If people are innately good, what is the need for government?
Who said people are innately good? What the fuck? Like in this video, what is the demographic of people this video is aimed at? I'm genuinely serious. I think what's happening here is that all these people don't even believe the same thing, and the things they believe, if we even say they believe anything at all, are entirely incoherent, like rambling nonsense. Like no one knows what the fuck they're talking about, and that's why it produced a video this horrible. Like what is being asked here? Who is the demographic for this video? Like who is it aimed at? Who is supposed to be responding to it? Who is supposed to be listening to it? I have no idea. I have no clue. And the word statists does not give any clue. I have no idea.
Government. And if people are innately evil, what is to stop them using government to cause evil?
Yes, government is used to cause a lot of evil. Give me an alternative. What society does not have laws? A law-making community or institution. You don't even advocate a governmentless society. No one can. What are you talking about?
One another. And would it not be better that their influence be limited to that which they can achieve?
Dude, it's really just making me sick. I'm surprised, honestly. I haven't quit yet. I'm still going. Dare I even say shocked? I don't even know what to say. I'm shocked.
Voluntarily, rather than to...
All right, not shocked, but just I don't know, bored. I guess I can only do this for so long.
To give them the added benefit of legitimized force.
A major question that I have for proponents of state economic regulations in particular is how exactly can you sleep at night knowing the economic destruction that you have created?
What the fuck is this video?
The effect of government regulations on output has been calculated to have an accumulated reduction cost on the American GDP of nearly $40 trillion just since.
I don't know what he's. Sorry, I just. It's about coal. What? What is he talking? I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't understand this, and I don't need to. I don't need. It's so vague. It's like you need to explain these concepts. I have no idea what he's talking about. Something about government inefficiency, I think.
1949. In other words, absent of any federal economic regulations, after World War II, we could have tripled our GDP.
I don't know what any of this means, and I don't need to know. I can't say he's objectively wrong because I don't know what the terminology even is, and that's fine. I don't need to know the terminology. So I can't say he's objectively wrong, which is what I'm not saying. Like, he might be right. What I can say is that he's an asshole for not explaining these concepts and just assuming people know this stuff or even care about this stuff. And also, like, all right, you're like, this stuff is bad. So what's the alternative? Just, like, the government not doing this stuff? Doesn't that contradict what other people in this very video have said? The government not doing... yeah, maybe if this is what the government is doing and it's bad, then the government should not do it. All right. What kind of question? What is the question?
Every citizen could have an average income of $333,000 instead of $53,000.
I don't think that's how GDP scales. It scales with income. Also, the capitalists that they, would be employed by would just take almost all that anyway.
A $277,000 increase in the average income. This doesn't even factor in the cost of compliance, rent-seeking, and state-level regulations. We could have had so much more prosperity and so much less poverty without state regulations on our economy. So how can you look your opponent...
Wait, how does state regulation of what? What are you talking about? What? Dude, there's no way to respond to this. He's being as vague as possible. When really you should be doing the exact opposite to help people understand the problem, whatever the problem is.
In the eye and claim that your regulations are somehow for the common man.
Left-wing statists.
Like that might be one of the worst ones yet. No, it certainly is one of the worst ones yet. I'm not sure what the worst one yet is. Maybe the naked dude, but that was still horrible. I no idea what he's talking about. What regulations? Name the what to do what? What is the regulation doing? How can anyone know whether to be for or against this unless you elaborate? Like, it's too vague. That's what almost all this shit is. Which is evidence that these people don't really have much of an ideology because they knew what they believed. They would just be more overt in their terminology and descriptions. That's the problem. To be fair, this is the problem with people who call themselves anarchists too, right? Leftists, right? They just as vague. They can't answer questions. They can't ask questions. Well, actually, anarchists can't answer questions. These dudes can't ask questions, right? That's the distinction, right, between people who call themselves anarchists and people who usually, capitalists who call themselves libertarians, right? These guys can't ask questions, but anarchists cannot answer them because they'd realize that they don't support anarchy at all.
When you're opposing drug laws, especially weed, you argue the government shouldn't be so powerful that it can tell people what they can and can't.
I guess this is just an inverse of the other thing you did, other segment. And I guess it's just stupid for the same reason, so let's just get on with
their own bodies.
Boo. Boring.
The government should be so powerful
Boring.
They have a complete monopoly over effective force.
Boring.
Here are the things you can't do without government permission. Build a house. Drive a car.
Well, I'm not really sure how I feel about the, people not having licenses for operating killing machines that are thousands of pounds and can drive at 100 miles per hour and run over people and kill them. But I mean, I would argue that maybe cars should be illegal even with a license, which is to say we should get rid of licenses to get rid of cars. But the first part, this guy's saying build a house. I agree. You should be there shouldn't be property taxes. You shouldn't have to buy the land. Land should be commonly owned. Kind of a common, socialist talking point. But anyway, go on.
Own a gun.
Well, you can own a gun, but you shouldn't be allowed to.
Go fishing.
I guess what he's talking about is that in some U.S. states or some parts of the world, there are fishing permits that are necessary. And yes, those are kind of stupid, although at the same time, we need to protect endangered species. But I guess permit or not, a crime is a crime. So a permit is kind of unnecessary, right? It's just fishing, right? If someone fishes and kills a bunch of like rare endangered like fish from endangered species, then whether or not they have a permit, they should still be prosecuted. If you get what I'm saying. So yeah, the permit is pretty pointless. I agree. I don't understand what his point is though. Well, maybe we could just have a government that doesn't do this, as many governments do not do this, and usually fishing you don't need a permit, just under some circumstances. So maybe we could like advocate for that. Just what the fuck?
Collect rainwater.
I'm not sure what he's talking about there. I don't know. Maybe he's talking about something that's real, but no elaboration. Like a lot of the rest of this video, like with no elaboration, I can't make anything out of it.
Hunt.
And neither can anyone else. Yeah, hunting. I mean, I guess it depends. I don't know. But anyway, what I've said before applies here. So you could list off any amount of things, but I've already given my 3 cents.
Cross the road. Get married. Leave the country.
Wait, get married? You're not allowed to get married because of the government? What? What are you talking about? Also, you can leave the country. Although, well, effectively you can't because it's the other governments that keep you out, right? The government doesn't, like, keep you in, but the other governments keep you out. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, effectively that's true, I guess. Technically not, but yeah, it's effectively true. I'm okay with him saying that, I guess.
Start a business. Fly on a commercial plane. Take drugs. Work.
You can't work, of course. That's something that's totally illegal. Oh, Jesus, dude. I don't know how much more I can take of this.
It's actually hard to think of something that doesn't require government permission.
We're almost 2/3.
Knowing this, how can you say you're free?
If being a democratically
almost
elected
2/3.
constitutional republic creates legitimate political authority...
Well, I guess he's asking questions to legal positivists again, Like, if a constitutional republic, if elections and the government and the yada yada, it's like, this is legitimate political authority, saying, like, if you believe that. Like obviously, there is no such thing as legitimate or illegitimate political authority. I mean, just either something is just or isn't. Either, you're ruling over someone for a good reason or a bad reason. That's all there is.
Does that mean that all the things that were done by the democratically elected constitutional republics of the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, and North Korea...
That's fair enough, right? Well, I mean, North Korea isn't democratic, but I get what he's trying to say, right? It calls itself as such. It's like, yeah, I mean, like, this is what I mean by, like, obviously legal positivism is insane. But the problem with this guy is that he's asking a question to someone who doesn't believe this stuff. Nobody does. Nobody believes this. And you'd be like, well, that's his point, right? I mean, they're like, the government, the U.S. government doing something, they believe that's just, but Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union, North Korea, like it's like he's trying to like point out a contradiction, right? It's like, you're against these countries doing this shit, but they have, democratic elect. Well, I mean, I don't really know about that, but the point is, well, none of these societies were democratic. I guess maybe Nazi Germany comes closest because at least Hitler was elected. I mean, that was a terrible thing. He shouldn't have been elected, but he was elected, right? So I'm saying, like, at least it comes closest to the definition of what he's talking about. But anyway, regardless, like, even if you take a democratic country, you use the worst examples, but even if you took a democratic country, yeah, I mean, it would be a contradiction because it would have a completely different set of laws. Like, is like living in a certain area, a certain span of land, a certain geographical plane somehow like change the morality of an act? I guess, like, in a sense, it's not that he's wrong in and of itself. Is that he's asking this question to no one who believes it. No one believes this. So, and no one even believes that their own country, that America, is just in its actions because it is the government. Like, don't get me wrong, legal positivism is used all the time as a horrible excuse, but it's opportunistic. It excuses one thing or maybe two things at a time. No one truly adheres to it. It's disingenuous. What you're doing is you're posing this as like an ideology people legitimately believe, but they do not. No one can nor does believe in that. No one believes that because something is a law, that a country, that a government establishes something as a law, therefore it is completely just because it is established, because that's the law. The law determines the morality. No one believes this. Maybe if you search for days upon days throughout the internet, throughout all of Twitter, looking at every possible political, like, politics-obsessed account ever, you can maybe, if you're really lucky, really, I know myself because I've been on the, I don't say I'm addicted to the internet, but like, come on, we all are, right? Like, I've been on political Twitter, every social media site ever, for so long. I've read so many essays, read so many books. I've done all of it, dude. All of it. That's why I've changed my ideology so much, because I keep seeing new evidence, new things that are presented to me. I've seen so much, and yet I've never once seen anyone who unironically, fully, non-hypocritically, unconditionally believes in legal positivism. And there is maybe one person on Twitter, if you can find them, by searching so hard, you can find who genuinely believes that regardless of the context, because a state lays down a law, therefore that's like why it's justified. In fact, there's no such thing as a thing that's justified or not on its own. Entirely, it just depends on what is legal or not. That is insane. Like, actually, like, here's the thing, that one person you would find has probably multiple mental disorders and shouldn't even legally be allowed on social media, in my opinion anyway. Like, you're not arguing with anyone. You're not addressing what anyone believes, which is the whole point, the whole problem with this video, actually. It's like aimed at some audience that doesn't exist. If even the same audience, maybe multiple audiences, maybe just one audience per creator. Who knows what the people making this video were thinking? They were out of their minds or stoned or whatever while making this video. I have no idea, man. I don't know how to respond to this. Anyway, I'll let him finish.
All those things were legitimate and justified?
If you're a proud
Yeah, that's what I expected him to say. Nothing really more to add there. But anyway, next person. Let's just get on with it. I'm just going to try and speed this up, actually.
Government-loving liberal who champions personal choice, could you please explain why I can't choose to not fund the murder of innocent children?
This is a good question. We have a completely reasonable question, right? You know, all these liberals who are like, I just support the status quo, normal Democrat or Republican America, and then they're like, you know, but like they support stealing money from people to fund the killing, the mass racial extermination of indigenous Palestinians. Like, that's not freedom. That's depravity. That's evil. Like, that is not a moderate. It's racial supremacy. It's evil. It's monstrous. That's literally the most evil thing that taxes have ever gone to. That is that the American government is stealing, that the Israeli government is stealing to this day, both governments, to continue the coalition of violence, destruction, pillaging, and terrorism, and murdering hundreds of thousands of innocent indigenous Palestinian people. Like, holy shit. Like, this is a completely reasonable question. It is rhetorical, of course. They're obviously, this is a perfect example of a rhetorical question. Obviously, she is mocking the viewer who supports this, right? The person who claims to just be a, moderate, liberal, ordinary person who supports something this vicious, yet calls themselves moderate somehow. Completely reasonable position. It's weird how this segment is in a sea of other insane segments. This is one that's just asking a normal question. It's rhetorical, yes. It's not, it's in bad faith, but bad faith is better than good faith given the context, because there's nothing good faith about supporting warlord imperialism that's committing in the context of just any context really, but especially in the context of a racial genocide. What the fuck?
Abroad.
If you've ever said,
again, that was the best segment, the one we just covered, right? I'm not sure what the worst segment is. Again, maybe the naked guy, anything featuring him. I don't like him. Well, I don't like any of these people, but but like that the last one we just went over, that was the best one. That's completely reasonable. If the whole video had just been this, yes, it's rhetorical. Yes, it's not like a legitimate question, right? It's meant to mock the viewer. But fair enough, right? Mock them for supporting depraved shit. And that's what this entire video was about. It'd be completely and utterly reasonable. I wouldn't even be responding to it. What would there be to respond to? I might have even been in the video. Who knows? But yeah, that's all I gotta say.
There ought to be a law, or if you believe that government is the best solution to most of life's problems, I have one question for you. Are you prepared to kill? Every law, no matter how big or small it appears to be, is backed by violent force.
Yeah, that's what that's what a government is. That's what a law is. Like, dude, you can't have a law unless it's enforceable. Unless it's enforced, or else it's pointless. What's the point of the law? Are you imagining a society without laws, dude? Even a hunter-gatherer society has laws. Like, if you try to kill another person, you're gonna get killed yourself. But you might say, okay, that's in the context of killing, so there's already violence. All right, point taken, right? That could be anything, right? Like, if you make theft illegal, someone's going to have to enforce that. They're going to have to kill the thief. You get it? Or they're going to have to, like, seriously wound the thief anyway. There's always going to be violence, like, in every, not even outside of societies. Just two people strolling in the wilderness, there's violence. There's consequences for one's actions. There's not set in stone laws. There's not laws established in a constitution or in some kind of written document, maintained by a government. But there is still the law of the jungle. So there's no society, there's no existence without some degree of violence. Even in a utopia, a true utopia where we've passed most of this, like, there's still going to be some violence, dude. That's what enforcing a law is. Unless you're the kind of person who just wants everyone, like, if someone broke into your house, you're like, well, I don't like what they're doing, but, I can't kill them for it. All right, well, people are going to steal everything. They're going to steal your whole home, kick you out of it, take your stuff. Like, dude, like, what is even the implication of what this dude is saying? What does he believe, if anything at all? Like, I'm just staring into this abyss. I'm like, what is this dude fucking thinking? What is the intention behind these vague, bizarre words?
And in many cases, death.
Wow, I really thought there was going to be some kind of elaboration there. That really was just as insane as I predicted. Damn.
Really want the same people who run the DMV to be in charge of your health care?
Well, it's not like it's the same service, but you would have to prove that the DMV being run by a private company would be able to do it more efficiently. And then if you were to prove that, then you could, like, say, okay, why do you support the DMV being, the Department of Motor Vehicles being nationalized when it's been shown that it's more efficient when run by some kind of private company, All right, fair point. That were true, right? If it were true, hypothetically, right? But even then, that wouldn't, like, justify your healthcare comment, because healthcare is entirely different. What reasoning is, if you believe generally that, like, a private company handles healthcare, providing healthcare the service, like, more efficiently than the government, and you also believe the DMV should be run by, a private company because you think in your view it's more efficient, it wouldn't be for the same reason. Even if both these things were hypothetically, and I have to really say hypothetically because that's the reality here, not in actuality, basically, were more efficient handled by some kind of, private company, CEO based, right? Then, like, it wouldn't be for the same reason. So one would have to look at these things individually. You don't look at one service and see it's run better by one type of provider and then assume that every other service, which is totally different in its structure, its act, its performance, its nature, what it's providing, the whole service, somehow would just be, like, the same, right? Like, it's just better, the private companies for everything because it worked in one scenario, if it even did work ever in one scenario. That's being optimistic. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's insane. These are totally different things. It's like rulers, right? Like, this is what, like, people who call themselves anarchists don't get. I mean, yes, they themselves aren't against all rulers, which is why they're not actual anarchists, obviously. There's no such thing as a real anarchist, right? But, like, what I'm saying is that they'll sometimes claim to be against all rulers. They don't really when you press them on it, but the point is, like, you can be against capitalists, right? They're an unjust ruler, and landlords, unjust, and judges, and lawyers, and, these are certain roles which do not need to exist, which is why they haven't existed for virtually all of human history. They don't need to exist. But that doesn't mean being against parents. There has to be parents. There has to be parenting. There has to be paternalistic parenting. There has to be parents who prevent their child from coming to harm, even if the child is only harming themselves. It's still wrong that the child makes that decision, and they should be prevented. And it's the same with, like police. You have to have some kind of law enforcement. People can't just be enforcing the law by themselves arbitrarily with no laws to really follow except their own opinion. That's going to lead to everyone dead because everyone believes in something different. That's the point. The whole point is that the cops enforce the law regardless of whether they agree with it or not. And sometimes that law, mind you, is unjust, and they should not enforce it. But that's what you take away from what you get. You get what I'm saying, right? It's a net positive because most things people would not enforce. That's why the cops exist. And of course, there needs to be prisons. Like, yeah, there are certainly plenty of unjust imprisonments, but there's far more just than unjust. And there needs to be far more imprisonment in general because of the amount of people who are not prosecuted, despite glaringly, obviously, by every account of every witness and every detective who did the work, know that they committed the crime. Everyone knows they did it, yet they're scot-free. Way more of those people are present in our society, roaming free, sadly, than those who are correctly imprisoned, or even, for that matter, even more largely those who are incorrectly imprisoned. Do you see the problem? Like, so this is the same thing. Like, in here, she thinks that because the government handles the DMV poorly, it probably does, I don't doubt it, therefore we must magically assume a private company can do it better, despite there being no evidence. We also must assume, likewise, for some reason, or no reason at all, that private companies can handle everything better, simply because one government service is relatively inefficient. That is insane. That is the mentality of, like, both these people and also of many leftists who say they believe in anarchism, but obviously don't because no one does. So, just wild, man.
Why is it that you prefer anti-discrimination laws which force those who hate other races to hide that prejudice and make money off of those?
So would you prefer them to just be unemployed? Also, they're going to make money off of everyone. That they're capitalists. Also, did you just admit that capitalists make money off of people? So you admit that they steal? What is even going on here? What this video is like, I thought I remember some of it because I watched it weeks ago, but I don't remember any of it, honestly, or almost none of it. This is so horrible. This is so horrible that it's getting worse. It's getting worse. How long do we have? Oh, no. Dude, we got a whole 4 minutes. We have, or 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Is that 3 minutes and 58 seconds? Yeah, it is. Oh, my God. I don't know how I'm going to get through this, man.
Races to a system where they could be open about said prejudice and lose money.
Okay, so his idea is that, well, if white supremacists just say, we're only hiring whites, huh? Yeah, we're not going to hire people of color. And, like, in your belief, people wouldn't work for them. But, like, here's the thing. Like, if you allowed racial discrimination so people could just, like, not hire people anyway, then the capitalists wouldn't be dishonest. They would hire no non-white people. Absolutely. They would only hire white people because they're racists. But they would never state that because they know they'd lose money. They know they'd lose money, as you admit. So why would they ever state that? They would just do it in silence, which is actually, sadly, what's happening a lot of the time. Even in societies in which this racial discrimination, not hiring people based upon race, is said to exist. This is sadly a thing that happens all the time, you know? And it is partly a reason as to why people of color, particularly black people in America, have the unemployment rates they do. Now, I say partially, right? You know, it's not like that's the whole explanation for the unemployment rate. I don't believe that unemployment rates amongst racial demographics, whether it's in America or any country ever, has anything to do with science or a race being better at something. There's no such thing as a better race or a race even really better at anything. Like, no. But, you know, that is part of the explanation for the unemployment gap. And that's horrible. And this is why private companies shouldn't exist. This is why capitalists shouldn't exist. If they were worker-owned, no one could reject them from being hired. There's no such thing as hiring. Either you do the work or you don't. So that's my solution there.
You guys often say that libertarians have too much faith in the goodness of people. Why
If only I knew what that meant. And if only you knew what that meant.
then do you, in the same breath, argue that I give up my right to bear arms and entrust my personal safety to police in gun-free zones?
Wait, so I thought it was gonna cut. Like it did, but not to someone else. I was like, I was just prepared to pause that.
A strong faith in human nature to me.
Wait a minute. Okay, so let's go back to
the goodness of this.
that guy T, right? Okay.
You guys often say that libertarians have too much faith in the goodness of people.
Okay, so some group of people, who knows what, have too much faith in the goodness of people. Okay.
Why then do you, in the same breath, argue that I give up my right to bear arms?
And that these same people who believe this are arguing that
and entrust my personal safety.
Are arguing that he should give up his guns, so no guns, but they should ban guns, the government should ban guns, and he should give up his safety as a result of that because he believes that guns make him safe. Okay, I'm following so far.
To police in gun-free zones.
Police, so they're arguing that the police, okay, I guess he's trying to say they're making the argument to entrust your safety to the police, right? Existing gun-free zones, and let the police who have guns take care of it for you. Okay, so I guess like what he's trying to say is that people in general, you know, like these, like, how do I even say this? Is like, how can we trust the police, right? If they're making the argument that we can't trust gun owners, right? Then why can we trust the other gun owners, the police, right? Okay, I guess that's the point. Sure, let's go on.
That seems like pretty strong faith in human nature to me.
I guess he's right. Yeah, like if you have trust in the police to use the guns correctly, but you don't have the trust in the people. But see, the difference here is that, like, firstly, we need police because if we don't, then then we won't have anything. That it's literally impossible to have a society unless you just wanted like every person to enforce the law on their own. But that would be horrific, and there also wouldn't be any laws to enforce because anyone can make up their own laws. So that the whole point is that the cops enforce the law. So you can't have any society you want without a police force. You literally cannot. You want something to be legal or illegal? Well, guess it depends on how some guy with an AK-47 is feeling that day. You know, he's like, he's walking out on his lawn. He's like, I see someone out there. He's walking on the sidewalk. I don't like that he's walking. He should really drive. I'm just going to shoot this dude in the head. And I'm not sure if that's a good gun sound effect. Let me try and do it again. I don't know. Is that better? I don't know. But anyway, and then the other dude, like some other guy, completely differently. He gets out of his mansion one day and he sees some dude driving. He's on his front lawn. He sees some dude driving down the road. He's like, I don't like that this dude's driving. I think he should be walking. So he just shoots through his windscreen and the guy dies. He's like, or something like that. Maybe like a sniper rifle. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's actually, I think I'm getting there. Anyway, though, like that's what I mean by like anyone would enforce whatever they believe. Not necessarily saying that would just be a daily, like that specific scenario. Those scenarios would be a daily occurrence, but it could be. So you never know. But yeah, like you gotta have police, and that guy T believes in police anyway. So what is the point of this segment? Like he believes in private police. So I don't even know what to say. But you're saying like why would the cops be better than people? Because the cops need to exist, right? They will still misuse guns, absolutely, as they do. Jesus, but we have to have cops. So yeah. But if you're like, well, okay, but why can't homeowners own guns? Why is home ownership of guns banned? Because people aren't using them to enforce laws at all. Vigilante justice is very rare, and a lot of the time it's not even just to begin with. So yeah. And it's like also because guns create a lot of suicide. Oh yeah, people use them more for suicide than homicide. And that's horrific. And what if you have kids in the house, and they stumble upon the gun, right? They just come across the gun and they want to play with it. They don't really know how it works, or they do, but they're playing with fire, like they don't think it's gonna harm them, and then they're dead. And it's like also like you might say, well, we could just put the guns in a safe, or we could lock them up somewhere. But it's like if you lock them up somewhere, then how are you going to use it for home defense, right? Like the whole point is that you're supposed to respond immediately to someone who's breaking into your home, right? Like how are you supposed to you have to go to that specific location in your house, you have them locked up and enter the code and all that stuff. And what if they already kill you before you do that? Exactly. Like, come on. Especially saying that they know why you're running. Try to get your guns in a society where guns are legalized. So, yeah. Also, the home invader will have guns. Because that's what happens in a society of guns. Like, someone who invades a home without a gun in a society where everyone owns guns. Well, not everyone owns. Like, a third of Americans own guns, right? But, where people could own guns recently, right? It's like, dude, you're an idiot. Which is why, of course, guns are used against you. This is the fallacy of these gun nuts. We're like, well, I'm obviously a gun is better at defending yourself than a machete or a hammer or something. It's like, yeah, that's why people who are doing evil with guns are doing evil with guns. Like you're like, well, how do we trust the police with guns? Like, how do you trust this many people? See, the thing is that your question could really be asked in reverse, and it would actually make a lot more sense, which I find to be funny and ironic.
Status, since the war on drugs has been an absolute failure, what makes you think a war on guns would be any different?
Because we've already banned guns successfully in many countries, and there are countries where virtually no one owns guns, and thus the murder rate is thus far lower, unsurprisingly. In other words, real world results, not hypothetical stuff. It's almost as if guns and drugs aren't the same thing. I think mainly because guns you can't really just hide as easily, and you take drugs and they're gone, right? But guns still remain, so you get what I'm saying.
Can you morally justify the federal government preventing a small territory from seceding from a larger country?
What is this, pro-Confederacy? But anyway, as a panarchist, even though I'm anti-Confederacy because what the Confederacy was doing was evil, and there wasn't really like many options anyway. Like, why is there not the progressive equivalent of the Confederacy, like one that's anti-slavery and anti-capitalism in general, and was trying to secede? And maybe I would be against Abraham Lincoln then, right? It's like trying to kill a progressive society. Like what I'm saying is I would allow the Confederacy to exist if we got the left-wing equivalent, right? But that equivalent never happened, so obviously I don't support it. But like, do I support a state succeeding? If we had panarchist order and a bunch of different societies that are experimental were allowed to be created, 100%. But if you mean like a confederacy type scenario, especially one with worse laws to create worse government and treat people worse, then no. And also, like, legal positivism is literally being like criticized in this very video. So if you're saying a society should be able to exist, especially like only a few, right? Not like any society, but a few societies should be exist because they're experimental and it's legal and they're just doing what a society is allowed to do. Like, that's legal positivism, dude. Like, either the society is just or not, right? The point of panarchy is that even though yes, some unjust societies will exist and that's horrible, they are unjust. Objectively, they are wrong. Like, they shouldn't exist. The point is, it allows for the good societies to exist, right? And this is so. In other words, the reason I support panarchy is for the same reason I support democracy, if it benefits me anyway, if you get what I'm saying.
How is
Wait, that was the whole question. Wow, that was the whole question. Wow, this keeps surprising me. I shouldn't be. I know I shouldn't be surprised, but this video keeps surprising me by how horrible it is. Honestly, it's beyond my imagination. I couldn't come up with something this awful.
You writing down, I'm in charge, and then getting 20 friends to sign it, any different from the drafting of the Constitution?
Yes, there is no difference, but again, no one actually believes this. No one believes that the Constitution is just because it... Well, I guess he's being more specific here. The Constitution, right? Not law in general. Right, he's being more specific for what it's worth, right? I find it ironic these people claim to be like pro-liberty, but they're against the Constitution. That's kind of funny. But anyway, the point is like, yeah, obviously it doesn't make any sense as to why one would be just and the other. Now, do people believe in the Constitution just because it's the Constitution? Do they believe like if they believe in the American Constitution, do they believe in the Constitution of every other country then? Since it would be, it would be the same principle, even if different laws exist in different constitutions. Not that anyone has ever read any constitution that isn't the Constitution, but you know what I'm saying. But still, I don't know I don't know how to respond to these people. But these people, like, if you're an unironic, like, boomer conservative, like boomer Republican social conservative, believes in the Constitution for the sake of the Constitution, like, it's justified because it's the Constitution. I guess this would mean, like, this person would believe in every single law of the Constitution. They would agree with it fully, like, unconditionally. But if they did that, then I think that means that they actually genuinely believe in the laws of the Constitution. Or they might be against some laws, but they're not saying every law is justified, hence why they're against it. They're simply saying that because there's more good than bad, far more good than bad, in fact, in the Constitution, and I agree with that sentiment, thus the Constitution should exist. And also because if we were to get rid of some of the stuff, especially the long-lasting amendments, right, it would sort of destroy the fabric of America. Some stuff has to stay static and stable and consistent in order to have the kind of society that makes America unique and prosperous. And I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But I guess, like, his question isn't entirely unjust if there are some people who are basically being hypocritical legal positivists about the Constitution, right? They're like, they're saying, like, well, it's in the Constitution unless it's just because the Constitution says so. If anyone ever articulates it like that or even similar to that, then I guess he would have a point. And it's definitely more common for someone to call themselves a constitutionalist or even have a view that borders somewhat on legal positivism when it comes to the Constitution than it is for someone when it comes to law in general. So, again, not the greatest question, and it needs more elaboration, but it's certainly not the worst here, at least.
If roads are so complicated...
Oh, but Jesus. Oh, God, how long? Yeah, a little over 3 minutes. 3 minutes, okay. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Okay, let's just...
and magical that they can only be built by a government.
Who said that roads are magical and can't be built by anything other than a government? Do you not know that socialists exist? They believe that workers should, like, own their own labor and the tools they use, and thus the government shouldn't do it? What the oh my God.
Then why do they hire private companies to actually build the...
Well, yes, someone who has the non-existent view that no one in the world has ever expressed to my knowledge, that apparently only roads can be built by the government. There's no such thing as a private company or a worker-owned company doing it. I guess, just, even though roads were, of course, built before governments or private companies, especially private companies, ever existed. But, the point is, like, if anyone articulated that and they're like, Okay, but I believe in private contractors to provide the blue collar workers to build the construction workers to build the. Yes, they would be insane, but no one has advocated this. I've never seen it anywhere, and I don't know what kind of person believes that magically only one service can be provided by one agent, one type of institution. Who are you talking about in this whole video? There's just this constant like accusation of this person believes this person says this. Who are you talking about, dude? Nobody. Like, no one would ever hold that belief. That's insane. That's like, and before you say, well, there's no belief too insane to hold, you're correct, which is why this video exists, sadly. But you never see it expressed, though. The particular beliefs they're talking about, I've never seen anything even remotely similar. I have no idea what he's talking about. Someone only believes that roads, it's physically, scientifically, magically impossible for a private company or worker-owned company to build roads. Who has made that argument? Who has ever expressed that sentiment? I don't know what to do. I can barely watch this.
Why is every logical
Dude, I can barely get through this. This is horrible. Oh, we're so close, dude.
Explanation we provide about how something will work just pure speculation, while any doomsday scenario you pull out of your ass about anarchism is absolute truth.
None of y'all support anything even microscopically related to anarchism. Like, people who leftists who call themselves anarchists, like these libertarian socialists, like, they're at least against some rulers. Like, some. Like, arguably not even most, but some. These guys here, though, are against not one ruler. They're against no rulers.
How highly do you think of yourself that you think it's your right to impose your views on people you've never met and tell them it's good for them?
That is vague, and I can't respond to that. That could be literally applied to any person. That could be applied to these people. That could be applied to literally anyone in existence, to any political group. It's so vague that it could be used as a meme, as like a insert meme for anything, for any scenario ever. This is like the let people enjoy things meme. It can be used infinitely and without consequence, no matter the context, which is to say it's worthless.
Listen to this ridiculousness.
Sadly, I am. I've been listening to it for I don't even know how long. Way too long. Painfully long. I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to keep watching this video, man. We've hit the 10-minute mark at least. I'm hoping that a lot of this is credits. I think, to my memory, there were credits. I think so. I could be wrong. I actually could be wrong. I hope to God we can just stop this really quickly.
Protect our president with guns, but our children with paper gun-free zone signs.
I don't even want to respond. Let's just move on.
Congress has a 9% approval rating. Government can't even balance a budget.
Please just move on.
We are about to reach a $20 trillion debt. Social Security.
So how do you want to fix this? Like, propose the solution. Like is this a rhetorical question that no one can answer? Not because they believe in anything, because like you're talking about stuff that they can't be answered. Like, this is so vague. This is like, what is this? Like, you mean like, well, maybe the government shouldn't do this stuff then? Okay, that's my answer. Like, what the fuck?
Medicare and other socialist policies are
socialist policies. Well, so America doesn't even have universal health care.
Sustainable. The drug war kills more people than drugs.
That definitely isn't true. Even if you exclude alcohol and tobacco, that still isn't true. But yes, obviously the drug war is unjust. There you go. So you could have just said, how do you justify the drug war when it kills so many people? Like, if you're against drugs because they kill people, why would you justify the drug war which kills these people? Fair enough. That would be a completely reasonable question, but sadly that's not what most of this question is. If it's even one question or a bunch of questions, or they can be considered questions at all, I don't even know, dude.
How can you say
oh, it's still going.
Government is effective?
Now to this.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh, just please be over.
Status of the left and right.
Status of the what?
Who are constantly against free trade and promoting protectionism and warlike foreign trade policies. Why is it that you think trade between nation states is any different from trade between states in the U.S., between Vermont and New Hampshire?
Because different countries have different laws and different economies, and thus it's affected differently. While this is also to some extent true of U.S. states, that every state has different laws and to an extent a different economy, even though they are still functioning, under the federal government and the Federal Reserve and everything that happens there. Obviously, the material conditions are drastically different, and that's why it's obviously different. Maybe like this dude's an economist. Maybe he should read some like economic papers. Maybe he should like not just be an economist on paper, but an economist who reads papers. That would be shocking, as to find why people are actually against the issue of international trade and how it would differ from national trade. Maybe you should like look at people's arguments and the economic stuff they write down, and how also the different laws and the different material conditions of certain countries make trade often exploitative, especially in terms of poorer countries, right? One industry is just dominating another country and they're not making any money, then the revenue isn't going to grow the poor country, but just benefiting the richer one. And that's not even benefiting the proletariat in the richer country, but just the capitalists who own the companies that are trading.
For Georgia and Mississippi, which we understand is a good thing
because it's a different context.
It broadens the division of labor and makes everybody better off. Why do you not see that that's also true internationally? And why do you
already
think
get my answer.
The solution to this non-problem is to raise taxes?
I don't believe that. All right, just please just get on.
When individuals,
I'm thinking, should I speed this up? You know, that would be worthless because the vast majority of the time it's just me talking. It's not me watching the video, and I'm trying to do less of that. I really am, but my OCD is holding me back. I can't not pause it. It's just too much.
Conscience conflicts with the commands and rules of lawmakers and law enforcers.
Wait, what?
Is an individual morally obligated to do what they believe to be wrong simply to obey the law?
You keep saying...
I guess he's talking... Jesus, that was loud. What the fuck? Turn this down even more. I guess he was saying, like, something to do with legal positivism. Like, I don't support legal positivism, and neither does anyone, so I don't even know what to... I don't need to respond to that. Let's just keep going.
I have to be moral by voting for a lesser evil this year. Could you please explain...
Could I please explain? Jesus. I don't know what... Go on YouTube and look up lesser evil argument. I don't know, just... Why are you asking questions I think you already know the answer to? Because we're forced to pick between two candidates. You can say, okay, well, we can just not vote. We can just not vote. But, dude, like, if we don't vote for the lesser evil, the higher evil is going to take over. If we had the choice between none of these people coming into office, it'd be a different story. Of course you have to vote for the lesser evil, dude. Like, holy fucking shit. Like, because the perfect candidate does not exist. And if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you're going to get Trump, and that's what we got. So, I know, they're almost identical. They're Nazis, but one is slightly less of a Nazi than the other. So, lesser evil it is.
How any kind of evil is ever moral?
So let's say you had a child and your offspring, right, biological offspring, right, like a son, right, and your son was kidnapped by the mafia, by the Italian mafia, and they put poison spaghetti and a poison ravioli on the motherfucking table, right? And so, your son has to fucking eat one and die. I don't know why. I don't know the context. This is a hypothetical, okay? So here's the thing. You get to choose which one your son ingests. And there's no way to kill these mafia guys. There's like 100 of them. They all got Tommy guns, and they're holding both of you captive, and you can't get out. And yeah, you got it. Anyway, so there's the poison spaghetti and the poison ravioli. Or did I say lasagna? I think it's, I don't know. Poison ravioli and spaghetti, right? Both is going to kill your son, but it turns out that the spaghetti is worse, right? Because it's going to take 24 hours for your child to die as opposed to 12 with the ravioli, right? Ravioli is the lesser evil. Spaghetti is more poisonous, right? Because it's a slow, like, it both kills him, but it's a slower poison, and it's also way more painful to ingest, right? Like, it feels like fire. It's fire, but the ravioli, it hurts a little bit, but it's very mild. You only feel something towards the very end, and it only takes 12 hours as opposed to 24. So here's the thing. If you don't pick one, if you don't pick either, right, and of course you being this person's parent, you would obviously pick the the ravioli, so he doesn't suffer longer and worse, right, and more intensely. If you don't pick either, then they're just going to force the kid to eat the spaghetti, which is to say that he's just going to die the most horrific, horrible death. So you would indeed be responsible for the extra suffering he undergoes. See that? That's my answer. That's a completely reasonable thing that any sane person would think about. The lesser evil is just a universally understood concept when you actually see it in practice. Somehow these people's brains don't function. They forget how to act when they're asking the question. They can't ask questions. They shouldn't be allowed to make any video like this ever again.
Given my first question to right-wingers and my second to left-wingers,
I'm not sure what he thinks those terms mean.
Comparing drug rights, which half of you advocate, and gun rights, which the other half of you advocate, it seems to me that there are two possible compromises. Either we go full authoritarian and none of you get what you want, or we go full libertarian and you can both have what you want.
Or, we could just ban drugs and ban guns. Or we could ban guns, but we could legalize drugs only because banning them would cause more harm. But in a pananarchist society where people come into that society as a means of not doing drugs, where drugs are hard to find, where drugs, society centered around not doing drugs, so they prevent them from doing it in the first place. That's a society where banning drugs would actually work because people are determined, and also because society is sort of structured around not doing drugs, right? It's impossible. Like think of it this way, right? Think of like a hippie commune and how much drugs there must be there, and like a tiny little commune somewhere in some part of the city. It's like a neighborhood infested by drug use. Obviously, drugs is gonna be easy to find there, as opposed to, I don't know. Well, I was gonna say like a Mormon neighborhood, but I think Mormons do a lot of drugs. They just hide it. It's actually probably a pretty easy place to find drugs. Well, you kind of have to be on drugs if you're in a Mormon neighborhood, But regardless, like a neighborhood that like everyone there pretty much is against drugs, like ideologically. It's not everyone. So you get what I'm trying to say.
Which sounds more appealing to you?
Panarchy does.
And given that answer that you gave, don't you think there are one or two other issues we could apply this reasoning to?
Oh, wait, is that it? Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. Oh, oh my god. Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. Oh, that was like a reverse jump scare. That was fucking beautiful. I can't believe I did this, dude. This is one of my greatest achievements. This is one of my greatest achievements to actually do this in one go. I can't believe it. Oh my god. Dude, I'm going to open that present. I'm going to open it right now. Hold on. Oh, yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, man. The suspense is killing me, dude. The anticipation. Oh my god, it's beautiful. Oh my god. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh my god. Oh my god, it's everything I wanted. Oh, this is gorgeous. Oh, it feels so nice. It is. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm going to be using this all the time. Oh, I love this thing. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh. Don't ever tell me happy endings don't exist. They do. Oh my god, they do. They so do. I'm more proud of doing this. I'm more proud of this challenge I put myself through than like anything I've ever done. Like all the arguing with people online. Like this here is one of the this is maybe the number one best thing I've done so far with like doing anything related to like responding to people or arguing or something like that. Oh my gosh, I feel so free. I am so free right now.